detonate 2,500 tons of explosives every day. An explosive power the size of a Hiroshima bomb once a week.
You feel like you're under attack. I mean, it's happening 2 or 3 times a day, every day.
That was a scene from the new documentary, The Last Mountain, which explores an ongoing battle in Appalachia between the people who live in small mining communities and large coal mining companies. And Robert Kennedy Jr., who you saw in the film, joins us now to talk more about the documentary and the issue. First of all, the impact on the people who live there. We were listening to one resident there. I don't think people take that into account.
No, and my father used to always say, because people, one of the kind of the mantras of the coal industry is that, well, we're bringing prosperity to West Virginia. My father used to say when I was a kid, he said, this is the richest state in the country if you measure the value of the resources of their land. Yet it's the 49th poorest state. So the benefits of coal are not, there's a huge net loss to West Virginia from sponsoring the coal industry in that state, and it's become a national sacrifice zone. Over the past 10 years, we've cut down a section of the Appalachians that's larger than the state of Delaware. We've cut down the 500, these 4 mining companies have cut down the 500 biggest mountains in West Virginia. Mm-hmm. They've buried 2,500 miles of rivers and streams, according to EPA. If you buried 100 feet of a Hudson River stream, you would go to jail. If you tried to blow up a single mountain in the Berkshires, the Catskills, or Utah, or Colorado, or California, you'd go to jail. But in West Virginia, because the people are so beaten down by this industry, and because democracy has been so completely subverted in the state by these large coal companies, they're able to do these things that are criminal. In fact, I debated Don Blankenship, who's the head of Massey Coal, CEO of Massey Coal, a year and a half ago, and I showed him that he had 67,000 violations of the Clean Water Act in 5 years, and plus tens of thousands of violations of mining laws, safety laws, health laws, environmental laws. And I said, is it possible to conduct this industry, to make a profit in what you're doing without breaking the law? And he said, no. So they admit it's a criminal enterprise, but they have to subvert democracy. They have to corrupt the public officials. They have to capture the agencies that are supposed to protect Americans from pollution, and they have to destroy the public process at the local level and destroy transparency in government.
So you talk about subverting democracy and these federal laws being broken wildly, and the impact on the people again, when they see this happening right here where they live and feel like they have no voice. I mean, ultimately it comes down to them, where they feel as if, what do we matter?
Well, that's what the film is about. It's about a group of them that they go to the local school board, they go to the planning board, they go to the legislature, they go to the DEP, and they go to the governor's office, and each one says, we can't fight back, it's big coal. Mm-hmm. So they finally go to the press, and they get one news group, CBS Channel 4, down in West Virginia to cover their protests, and that was the beginning of a kind of a battle that they started. And now looks like they may be able to win to save the last big mountain in West Virginia.
Jeffrey Sachs. Why can't we get any kind of planning at the national level to have some kind of sensible energy strategy?
Well, that's what we need to be doing. Coal, our whole, we say that we love free market capitalism in this country, but our energy system, if we had a true free market, would probably actually function, because our addiction to carbon is based upon the capacity of that industry to levy huge subsidies from the American people and from the federal government that gives them an unfair advantage in the marketplace. Right now, one of the companies I'm involved with, which you're familiar with, Bright Source Power, is building a solar thermal plant in the Mojave Desert. And we're building it in about 3 years. It takes 10 years to build a coal plant. We're building it at about $3 billion a gigawatt, which is the same price you'd pay for a coal plant. It's a fifth the price you'd pay for a nuke plant. Well, once we build it, it's free energy forever, because the photons are hitting the Earth every day for free. All we have to do is build the infrastructure to pick them up. This is one of the biggest power plants ever built in this country, 2.7 gigawatts. We could do this all over the country with wind and solar if we had a national energy policy that actually was patriotic, was intent on providing jobs and prosperity to our country, to ending our deadly dependence on Mideastern oil, and to reestablishing our moral authority and our global economic leadership.
Yeah, we talk about this all the time, that there's so many opportunities like this concentrated solar thermal, but they can't break through the lobbies in Washington.
Well, that's exactly the problem, because, like I said, once you build that $3 billion, we use about 1,000 gigawatts of power. That's our peak demand. 500 of those are carbon-based. To replace those at $3 billion a gigawatt would cost about $1.5 trillion. And we can do that. We have the wind. We have the best wind on earth, the Midwestern states, the Saudi Arabia of wind. We could power the entire U.S. energy grid from an area of the desert Southwest that was 75 miles by 75 miles. So we have the capacity to do this. We need to build a grid system, and we need rational market rules that encourage good behavior rather than bad behavior. Right now, the rules that govern the American energy system were written and devised to buy the energy by the incumbents, by the carbon cronies, to reward the dirtiest, filthiest, most poisonous, most toxic, most addictive and destructive fuels from hell, rather than the cheap, clean, green, abundant, wholesome, and patriotic fuels from heaven. And we need to rationalize the marketplace so that it rewards good behavior rather than rewarding destructive, bad behavior.
Yeah, I find it shocking we have a Nobel laureate as Department of Energy, but there's so many political pressures to keep him from just putting forward a plan that could do exactly this. And they've got him completely muzzled, it seems, so that he can't put forward something sensible. And we're stuck.
You say they. Who is they?
I think the White House and the political leadership in Congress, because big oil and big coal are the two most important lobbies in this country. And they have relentless power, and they proved it again this past election. No one's ready to stand up to them in Washington.
Even Obama, who I think knows better about this issue, has to kind of choke out the term clean coal occasionally. And I think, that's because he's got a broader agenda. He's got health care, and he's got two wars, and he's got saving the automobile companies, and he needs 11 coal state senators, 22 senators, more than half of them Democratic, to vote for his agenda, and they're not going to do it unless he supports big coal.
We've been talking about, though, a lack of energy policy since Jimmy Carter. Actually, since Richard Nixon and OPEC. When OPEC turned the spigot off, Americans started talking about we need a real energy policy. That was, 38 years ago. And we just don't get there. It doesn't matter who's running Congress.
We had, Carter,
is
as ineffective as Jimmy Carter is thought to be on many issues, he actually did have a pretty good energy policy.
Yes, he did.
And when Reagan came in, the first thing he did was to rip the solar panels off the roof of the White House to basically announce, we're handing the economy back over to big oil and big coal, and we're living with the effects of that decision today. Gerald Ford, who was Republican, and Jimmy Carter passed fuel economy standards in this country that were designed to get us completely off of foreign oil by 1986. And they were on their way to doing that. We wouldn't have had to import a single drop of foreign oil if we had followed their fuel economy standards, but they were rolled back by David Stockman in 1981, and today we're living with the results of that addiction, including 2 wars that were unnecessary.
Yeah. Robert Kennedy Jr., thank you very much.
It's great to see you again.
The Last Mountain opens in theaters this Friday. See it.